Okay, for today, no, we are going to discuss the theory of constraints. Okay, now in layman's term, to understand what is constraint, you can compare it with bottleneck or choke points. Okay, if you have a bottle right now, dun sa bahay nyo, no, di ba, pag bottle, it's always thinner pagdating dun sa may butas. It's always like that. Kahit na Pepsi man yan, Coke, or whatever, it's always like that. Now, if we talk about bottleneck in strategic costing, these are the possible processes na naiipon yung other processes. Okay, so for example, in production, maraming possible na processes, pero lahat ng process na yon ay dadaan on a certain process. Okay? And when we talk about roads, let's say we have a 4 widened road. Okay, 4 lanes siya. Pero sooner or later, pagdating sa may dulo, possible siya maging 2 lanes na lang. So pag maging 2 lanes, we can call that as well as bottleneck, choke point. Choke point, ibig sabihin, possible na iipon doon. Okay? Now, if there is a bottleneck or there are choke points in our or in the entity's operation, what is the possible response of an entity when they face such, if they have constraints on their operation? Okay, yun yung possible na dapat tinatanong natin on how entity would address constraint. Okay? Now, first, we have to identify what would be the constraint. Okay? Here are the possible source of constraint. Possible is time. Okay? When you talk about time, for example, di ba, may exam tomorrow. You have time constraint kasi hindi ka nakapag-aral before. So, 1 hour before, magpapanik ka, magka-cramp ka. 30 minutes, nag-cramp ka, 30 minutes ka na nakapag-aral. So, yun yung time constraint. Scope constraint. Hindi na kaya ng scope or hindi abot ng scope. For example, let's talk about authorization. Hindi inabot. Hindi for example, the law requires ang scope ng investigation is sa Santa Rosa lang. So, pagdating sa Binyan, hindi ka na pwedeng mag-investigate ng basta-basta. You would have to secure other legal documents to move forward with the investigation. It's possible scope constraint. We also have budget constraints. For example, ang allowance mo ay 1,000 peso a day. Okay? Pero ang food ay 1,200 dahil matakaw ka. So, meron kang constraint in amount of 200. Okay? How about demand constraint? Possible ba na magkaroon ng constraint sa demand? Possible ba yun? Okay. For example, today, COVID-19, some products, meron tayong limited demand. Okay? So, that can be considered as constraint. Okay? Now, in the eyes of the entity, how can they resolve this? They have to put back the demand. Paano nila gagawin yan? Possibly advertising, freebies, bundling, whatever. Okay? Now, yung pinaka-concern natin dito possibly is the production limit or the production constraint. Now, many times, okay, pagdating sa core company, especially in manufacturing, there is limit on their machineries. For example, one of the best example is yung machinery ng Gardenia. They name it as PS 2000 or PH 3000. That is the limit, or in a month, yun yung kayang gawing tinapay, or on a daily basis. So, may constraint yon. So, kung ang demand natin is 1 million, ang kaya lang nilang i-produce using all their machineries is 900,000, then there is a demand gap of 100,000. So again, we are talking about constraints. Now, different angles or different topics under constraint, different application in the real world. And there are different ways how to handle the constraint. However, if we are talking about theory of constraints, there is a possibility that an entity would like to know what would be the best move that they are going to do or the best alternative, okay, that they are going to implement. Okay. Now, in addressing constraint, okay, we have to look at the demand, productivity, finance, and coverage. Okay? Parang reiteration lang to kanina. Okay? When we talk about the demand, we look at the numbers. How many is the demand? Okay? If, for example, the demand is 1 million and we have a demand gap of 100,000, is it possible? Ito yung mga possible na talakayin ng entity. Is it possible that we invest on additional machinery? Kasi there's a constraint, then we have to address the constraint. Then easily you can say that, okay, let's add another machinery. However, pagdating sa real world, you cannot just decide the spur of the moment. You have to back it up with data. Okay? Diyan napapasok yung mga pinag-aralan sa economics, wherein titingnan mo kung if we are going to invest this much money on a particular equipment, can it be recovered? Can the fixed cost be recovered in terms of depreciation? Okay? Remember, when we invest with machinery, we're talking about millions of pesos or dollars if it's gonna be imported. Okay? What would be the timeline for the recovery of the certain investment? Okay? Is the marginal revenue enough to cover the marginal costs? Yun yung mga tinitingnan. Okay? Now, productivity, when you talk about productivity, now, is there a bottleneck? Yun yung una mong tatanungin. Kasi, why is the productivity of the entity being hampered? Is there a downtime on the operation? Are there machines, okay, that gets maintenance very often? Yung mga tinitingnan. So if this is the problem, is it possible that we replace the machinery? Okay, if we are going to replace, how much can we sell the old machine? Okay, that's one addressing the constraint. Okay, in some business entity or business perspective, okay, some will try to what? To hire other company to produce for themselves. Kasi instead of investing in heavy equipment, okay, instead of buying new expensive equipment, using the cost-benefit analysis, would it be better to just use other people's resources? Okay? Sa financial management natin, we are learning now where to get funds. Tama? Other people's money yon. Now, this time, in strategic costing, instead of borrowing money, okay, so that we can buy machineries and all, we can also consider, what about let's just use other people's resources? What do I mean? Okay. Now, I do not know if naalala nyo pa pumunta sa grocery, no? Because we have been locked down for 3 months. Okay? I do not know kung kayo yung nautusan or kayo lang yung taga-kain, no? But if you remember, kung napunta kayo sa SM, okay, they have their own brand of vinegar, sugar, egg, rice, Pure Gold. They also have bigas. Robinson, they have their own versions of the vinegar, toyo. Okay, shop-wise they also have. Okay, do you think that they have a separate manufacturing company doing that? The brand for SM is, I think, SM Bonus. Okay, do they really have a separate manufacturing plant? Okay, in catering the production of the vinegar? Again, you can use other people's resources. You can outsource. The main key is outsource. If it's better off, mas makakatipid ka, then better outsource it. Okay? Now, addressing constraint in finance, whether do we have constraint on money? For example, increase in operations. That can be also be a topic under constraint, financial constraint. Okay. Now, where do we get money? Additional stocks, additional lending, additional borrowing, short-time borrowing from the bank. What is it? Or can we just use other cash flow for the meantime before it is being used for its main purpose? Okay. Coverage. When we talk about coverage, we can also look at the constraint of reach. Okay. For example, are we reaching enough customers? If we are operating in Binyan, shouldn't we reach out for market in Carmona, Santa Rosa, San Pedro? Okay. Possible there are constraints if you will be required to have permits to operate on those locations. Again, if that's the constraint, is it doable? Can we be granted authorization to operate in those particular location? Okay. At the end of the day, guys, when we talk about constraint, we look at the possible options that the entity can do. Okay. Again, cost-benefit analysis. How much will it cost on this alternative 1, alternative 2, alternative 3? So looking at the qualitative data, what is the best alternative on the possible moves that we are going to consider? Choose the best. Okay? Qualitative and quantitative. Okay? However, pagdating sa in academics, especially in Stracom, we choose the lowest cost with the highest return. That's how we analyze. Of course, in the real world, different yung perspective done. It's because there are qualitative data that you have to consider, whether relational factor, long-term factor, trouble factor, manpower, HR. There's a lot. However, pagdating kasi sa quantitative, we just consider the numbers. Okay? Now, alternatives, in case of our alternatives, we have already discussed this. Cost-benefit analysis, yes. Economic theories. Okay, economic theories is very important or very useful in theory of constraints, especially when we're talking about supply and demand. Okay, if it's too much demand, are we really able to buy a new machinery or equipment to produce more? What would be the reaction of the competitor? Are they going to do the same thing? Okay? Then din papasok yung games theory when we talk about oligopoly companies. Okay? What would be their reaction in the market? Of course, in the real world, hindi naman kasi panay numero lang. You look at your competition, what they are going to do if you implement a certain kind of strategy. Okay? However, again, basic would be the digits. Kasi in every company, digits is very important on a decision-making, whatever part of the company it is. Okay? They look at the digits first, then look at the collateral damage. If we do this, Can we mend the relationship in this supplier, this customer, anything and everything? Okay? So that's how you deal with theory of constraints. Again, recap. A theory of constraints, possible that there is a lacking on a particular subject matter, okay? And companies would like to address this, try to put on the solution, okay? Then, if you identify the possible constraint, look at the possible alternatives. Okay, look at the best alternative that will bring the lowest cost or the highest return or net return. Okay? Then after that, in the real world, look at the possible qualitative data that would affect your decision making on a particular constraint matter. Okay, so with that, we conclude. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.
Thank you po, sir.
All right.
Thank
No
you,
homework.
sir.
No homework.
Sir.
Slap
Thank you,
time
sir.
check,